Fairfax County, Virginia, 1970. It was early August, and at around 3:30 p.m., Eric Daniels and his friend Jonah Renford, both age 13, were playing football down by the lake, where they had gone for a picnic with their parents. As the afternoon sun beamed down on them, they laughed and shouted to one another. "Go long," was the regular cry. The boys weren't interested in the food, they just enjoyed the outdoors and the opportunity to sneak off and explore the surrounding woods. Their parents, however, were a little more reluctant to allow them out of their sight following recent events. It was rumored that an inmate from the local mental institution had somehow disappeared. Some say they escaped, but no one really knew what happened. As the day progressed, they had noticed the boys had disappeared from their sight and began to panic a little. The boys weren't far away, just at the edge of the woods looking for their ball, in fact. This, however, did little to ease the parents' nerves. Anyways, back to the rumors of the escaped inmate. His name was James McIntosh, a Scottish national who had relocated in the early 1950s after being suspected of murder in his hometown of Aberdeen. He arrived on the shores of the U.S. with just a travel sack and a change of clothes, and after around 2 years of street surfing and homelessness, he found himself in the clutches of the law once again. This time it was far more sinister. He abducted, raped, and tortured a 25-year-old woman on her way home from work at a local subway. The police found her insides trailed across the alleyways behind the main street. This heinous crime shook the local community, as nothing like this had ever happened before. James was caught some months later, sleeping in the local park, convicted and sent to Annandale Mental Institution for the criminally insane. During this time at the institution, he was subjected to all kinds of distressing treatments such as electroshock therapy and ice baths to subdue the feelings he carried inside him. He was told they were looking for a cure, but both they and he knew there was no cure for what he had: psychopathic tendencies. He endured month after month of these treatments, but they had the opposite of the desired effect. They made him more psychotic and unpredictable. Soon he came to enjoy the sessions, describing them as a break from his normal day. Sometime in the early 1970s, he and another inmate decided they could no longer cope with the constraints of the institution and made a break for it. They ran and hid together in the woods nearby for several weeks. However, James' psychotic episodes were increasing, and he wasn't getting enough sustenance from the forage around the woodlands. After 7 weeks, James became more and more deranged, so much that he took his companion to a nearby lake with a refuse of fishing and drowned him. As his friend took his last breath, James began to think about how he would skin and cook his friend to replace the validity he had lost since their escape. He found slate and stone, which he manipulated into tools such as axes and hammers in order to carry out this mundane task. He then proceeded to build a fire and carve steak-like pieces of flesh and devour them uncontrollably. It was around this time, when he was lurking around the woods looking for somewhere to lay his head, he discovered the old bridge that ran over a dried-up riverbed. He settled down and fell asleep under the bridge. The peace and quiet of the woods, disturbed only by the sound of birdsong and gentle flowing of the nearby river. He used to make his way into the town after nightfall. It was at this point a series of break-ins began throughout the local businesses, never private homes. These began as quite mundane occurrences, the odd bottle of camping gas and camping stove at first. Then towards the end they became more gruesome and quite bizarre. First, a rather large hatchet from the DIY store, and then strangely a large rabbit suit from the fancy dress store. Over the next few weeks, people taking a stroll through the woods with their dogs reported seeing something resembling a large white rabbit wandering the area, but these sightings were laughed off as hoaxes by the local police. And so here we are back in August of 1970 again, with Eric and Jonah searching for their football. The edge of the woods was overgrown with bushes and weeds that ran from the edge of the lake as they disappeared into the dense greenery and out of sight. Much against the wishes of their parents, they heard a dull groaning sound. Being the adventurous twosome that they were, they decided to investigate further, which as it turns out was not the best idea they've ever come up with. The two boys carefully trenched through the damp grassland underfoot. As they emerged from the other side, they came across the creepy-looking bridge, all moss-covered and dark, and underneath they could just make out a strange shape. As they moved closer and closer, the shape morphed into a figure, huddled up trying to keep warm, or so they thought. Finally, they were almost on top of the strange figure, who suddenly leapt up and began to swing the hatchet violently, catching Eric just above the left shoulder, taking a large gouge from his neck. The boys turned and ran towards the lakeside, screaming as loudly as they could. Eric barely made it, blood running down his once white football shirt, his parents panicking and awaiting the paramedics. Jonah tried to explain to the police exactly what happened, and they arranged for an inch-by-inch searching of the surrounding area, including the bridge. After hours upon hours of painstakingly searching the woods, they found nothing. But from that day forward, everyone was aware of the Bunnyman Bridge and the horror that lurked underneath there. Hey loves, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is a original story by Daniel Bridge, and it's called Echo of the Bunnyman. And this was a story written for Tainted Tales. I will link their social media accounts all in the description bar below so you guys can check it out. I will also link my Twitter and my Snapchat. Also, if you guys have any scary stories you want to send me that you want me to narrate, I will also put my email address down below as well so you can do that. I love you guys and thank you for your support. And also, don't forget, I'll see you.